Okay, so today's topic, distress your body and mind and restore your health. And I would like to say restore your hormones, because we know that stress is related to all kind of diseases and problems with our health. So if you guys can mute yourself if you unmuted, so we can go through the presentation. So who am I and why I'm talking about this important topic? And Carolina mentioned a few of my things that I'm doing right now. Actually, I'm graduated from medical school in Europe in 1993, specializing in gynecology and endocrinology. When I moved to United States, I wanted to become a doctor. So I passed all my medical boards in 2005. And while studying for my boards, I work in a medical system, in American medical system, and learned that is not sustainable way of practice. And I decided not to go to that road and went to Institute for Integrative Nutrition and became certified holistic health practitioner. Since then, I practice as a health coach or holistic health practitioner, specializing in women's health. Also, I became certified practitioner by Institute for Mind-Body Therapy since 2015, Institute for Functional Medicine since 2018, and become certified through salary deducts practitioner in 2018, and epigenetic specialist since January 2019. That is my new passion of epigenetics, and I will mention something about that. So I have my own stress story, and that brought me from pain to purpose to what I am doing right now. It's all began with a bump on my head and a bruise on my butt after I collapsed in my bathroom one Saturday morning many years ago while getting ready for my weekend job. After calling in sick and sleeping for 24 hours, I was back to my normal crazy routine, but I was now really concerned about my health. After evaluating my life, I realized that because I had multiple jobs and worked 7 days a week in order to support my two girls and my husband at that time, who lost his job, I didn't have time to eat properly or even sometimes eat at all. I didn't have time not only to exercise, but to relax. And this stressful lifestyle resulted in debilitating health, anxiety, and multiple food addictions. And that scary Saturday morning was my aha moment, one that forced me to change my life and the way I was living. And few years forward, after healing myself, I dedicated my life to support other women to achieve their happiness and health goals with nutrition and lifestyle modification by sharing my message through my book and my programs. And this is approach to everything that I do, how I heal myself and how I help other women. I use 7 principles of health. And I believe that until you address all of these levels or all these areas, you will never heal completely. So, and this is my approach to any health concern, conditions, or diseases. And today I would like to talk to you about stress, how it affects our health and how to build a muscle against it. And as you know, living in this pandemic, stress level is very, very high. So, and our health, we've been in a health crisis for a long time, and now it's become even worse. And now we know that depression increased from 37% before pandemic to 48% as of now. And we know that suicide went up, and domestic violence also increased. Substance abuse also increased. So all of it related to stress that we live in right now. And stress, as you know, it's the biggest root cause of many particular chronic conditions. And that is my, this is three-legged stool is my approach to disease creation. That's how disease arise. And some of you already saw it in my previous presentation. So to be healthy or contract a disease or develop a disease, on the top, it's a big part that related to that, it's a diet or nutrition. And as a standard American diet or set diet, it's not very helpful to sustain us. So a lot of problem we have related to the way we eat. One leg of the stool, it's a genetic expression. And this is also a big topic, and we're not going to discuss it today. But as a we get all our genes from mother and father, as you know, and we have our genetic blueprint. But as new research shows that genes are not our destiny. And due to our environmental factors, the way we live, we can change our genetic expression, and we can prevent so many diseases if we change the surrounding. Another leg of the stool, it's a microbiome. It's another huge topic, and we will discuss it in another time because it has whole maybe whole presentation or even multiple presentation. But we know that our bugs in our gut support us. It's viruses, bacteria, parasites, and many different things that can make us healthy or make us sick. So we have to make sure that we feed them properly so they can support us in the best way possible. And today we're going to discuss this leg of this three-legged stool. It's a stressors. And having all this leg supporting our stool or our health or creating a disease are very important. So, okay, go back. So what do you associate stress with? If you can put in the chat when you hear word stress or when somebody asks you about stress, what would come to your mind or what would you say? So what are you stressed about today, for example? You can put in the chat, and I just wonder what people are stressed about today besides coming into our presentation. Put few words, and I want to hear what people would like to say.
Gen T, work, money, and children, kids.
Mm-hmm.
Headaches, chest tightness, strained relationships, tight jaw.
Mm-hmm. So some of those are symptoms of stress, and some of them the causes of stress that was mentioned, right? Mm-hmm.
Not knowing,
Mm-hmm.
also. Uncertainty,
yeah, probably fear of
I guess she means.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So stress is very common word that we use every day. In this fast-paced, technologically modern world of the West, stress is inevitable aspect of living. The term stress is currently, as it currently used, was actually coined in 1936 by this Hungarian Canadian endocrinologist, and he said he defines stress as non-specific response of the body to any demand for change. So it's kind of not exact definition. So any kind of response of the body or on any demand for change. It's kind of a very vague definition of the stress. And until now, we still don't know exactly what stress is, and everybody interprets it in a different way. But most people view stress as some unpleasant threat or experience, and word stress associated with something negative. correct? So all words that were put it for the stress, they were all related to some negative thing that happened to us. Actually, stress can be both. Can be positive, and we call it eustress. For example, getting a new job, having a baby, getting married, receiving an award, winning a game. Or it can be negative. It's called distress. Lost loved ones, money, job, losing house, it's all negative. Getting divorced, being a caregiver for older person or for the young ones or for the sick person, physical or mental illness or work demand, they're all stress. And does it matter if it's a positive stress or negative stress? Our body see it as a stress and responded as to stressful situation. So, but stress is very beneficial in a small degree because it's a vital warning system that we inherited as a mammals. It is a survival mechanism to protect us from danger, for example, to avoid car accident or defend ourselves in threatening situations. Can help us meet daily challenges. For example, for myself, I like to take different challenges because challenges motivate me to do something. Starting from quarantine, my daughter and I sign up for exercise challenge, like a body fit challenge, and we've been doing it until now. We just resigned for another challenge, because sometimes I think the challenges motivate us to do something that we usually don't do. Also motivates us to reach certain goals. Stress improves athletic performance and also can even boost our memory. Is my voice coming okay? Because I hear myself with distractions.
I think it's coming across fine. If anyone's having difficulty, just put it in the chat.
Okay, because I hear echo myself. Okay. So, to stress or not to stress? That is the question. And if we look at this stress as a human function curve, and it's very interesting that it shows that increased stress results in increased productivity, but up to a point after which things go rapidly downhill. However, that point or peak differs for each of us. So you need to be sensitive to the early warning symptoms and signs that suggest a stress overload is starting to push you over the hump. Such signs also differ for each of us and can be so subtle that you don't even notice them or ignore until it's too late. Not infrequently, other people are aware that you might be heading that way before you even realize that. So stress is very useful until you reach that comfort zone. And if you go a little bit over, it can be detrimental to your health. So stress is difficult to define because it is so different for each of us. A good example of that is a roller coaster ride. Imagine yourself on a steep roller coaster ride along with other passengers. Some are hunched down in a back seat, eyes shut, jaws clenched, and white knuckles with an iron grip on a retaining bar. And they can't wait to ride in the torture chamber to end so they can get back on a solid ground and scamper away. But up front, those wide-eyed thrill seekers, yelling and relishing each step, plunged who race to get on to the next one. And in between, there are some people with an air of nonchalance or boredom. So which one is you? What seat do you take? The passenger? What passenger are you associated with? So the roller coaster analogy is useful in explaining why the same stressor can differ for some of us and can be completely devastating for one person and healthy for another. Interesting that in a medical context, stress is a physical, mental, or emotional factor that causes bodily or mental tension. Stress can be external from environment, psychological and social situations, food, or can be internal from physical illness, medical procedures, surgeries, or even negative thinking. And all of those stressors contribute to our stress bucket that we can fill up very fast or very slow, depends how many stressors we get exposed and also how we perceive stress. So what's happening inside your body when you are stressed? Stress is initiated a complex reaction of neurologic and endocrinologic systems. So at least two systems get involved with stress. Let's look how stress induces changes in neurological system. And this is due to autonomic nervous system and the vagus nerve that is responsible for autonomic nervous system. And autonomic means that processes that happening through the neurological system is happening without our awareness. So for example, we breathe, our heart pumping. So this is all involuntary neurological function. It's called them autonomic. And vagus nerve is one huge nerve that comes from our central nervous system, from the brain, and goes to all organs. And it's bidirectional, so the nerves come down from the brain to all organs, sending information and also getting information from all those organs that listed here back to the brain. And we'll discuss it why it's very important. And autonomic nervous system presented with two parts. They are opposite to each other, parasympathetic and sympathetic. And you can see a picture here for both those systems. So parasympathetic nervous system responsible for rest and restoration. During that activation, parasympathetic system, acetylcholine releases neurotransmitters, and that's what's happening when parasympathetic system stimulated. Decreased heart rate and blood pressure, decreased respiratory rate and bronchial constriction, decreased glucose from glycogen in the liver. So there is going to be decreased glucose if parasympathetic system is stimulated. The glucose sugar goes down in the blood. Papillary constriction and increased GI activity. So sympathetic fight and flight system is opposite to parasympathetic. And if it's activated, norepinephrine and epinephrine released, and that's what's happening when it's activated. So increased heart rate and blood pressure. We probably all felt that during the stress. Increased respiratory rate and bronchial dilation. Increased process of glucose from glycogen in the liver. So it means the glucose in the blood goes up, and increased pupil diameter and decreased GI activity. So when we under stress, everything goes up except glucose goes up, and heart rate and vascular system goes increase, because we need to fight or we need to flight. So we need all energy to flee and also a lot of glucose needs to go for energy and also for the muscle to get stronger and run. But some other function like food process or reproduction gonna go down because it's not essential that need in this point of stress. Important that sympathetic response to acute stress normally dissipates very quickly. For example, as a human, the same as animal in acute stress, when we are chased by other predators, our stress is very acute and everything, all functions go up and we can run or we can fight. And if stress is decreased, we can go back to original state and it's fight or flight dissipates quickly. And I wish it would happen with every human, but it's not really what's happening with many people. But that's our instinct. That's what is supposed to happen. Sometimes fight or flight is not enough. And there is another options to protect ourselves from stress. It's a freeze response or pretend death response. And this is a new research that's done, particularly after a lot of evaluation of post-traumatic stress disorders, and the new branch of parasympathetic nervous system was discovered, and it's called reptilian vagus. And it's a part of parasympathetic nervous system that was first developed millions of years ago and activated by extreme stress. And extreme stress can be acute. It happened near-death experiences in extreme stressful situations. And what's happened, we have profound bradycardia. If you don't know, it's a decreased heart rate. Also, we faint and or freeze, pretend that, or almost that, and decreased blood pressure, hypertension. And sometimes this coping mechanism, our actually mechanism from reptilian life many years ago, save a lot of people. Because if you hear stories, for example, soldiers on the battlefield, when they pretended they're dead and their life been safe, and sometimes person pretend that and predator or bad guy cannot hear pulse and there is no blood pressure or very low, that even breathing so low that person perceive as a dead. So in this extreme circumstances, that reptilian vagus save people's life, and it's called polyvagal theory. So, and there is also chronic stress or chronic reptilian vagus protection, but it's usually happen in perceived extreme threat. So if we think that this is threat is as a near-death experience and chronically perceive it, it's become very damaging to our body, whole system, and psychology. Usually it's happened after strong traumatic event, and it's persistent in post-traumatic stress disorder. That's why it's very difficult to treat post-traumatic stress disorder or other very stressful situations. So people feel hopeless and avoidance. But interesting fact that activation of that reptilian vagus also inhibits the sympathetic nervous system and inactivating fight or flight response. So people cannot go to that acute stress response because this inactivation of fight or flight response. So next is stress-induced changes in endocrine system. And this is a little scheme that shows how everything happens on endocrinologic level. Stimulated by an internal or external stressors, neurons in the hypothalamus, and it's here, and subsequently in the pituitary gland secrete hormones that stimulated cortisol production in adrenals. So this is adrenals. The brain and adrenal connection is called hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, and is very important in understanding the stress effect on the body and how stress reduction method can work. So this is a little adrenals that you can meet, and adrenals have two parts: outer shells, and that produce cortisol and DHEA, and those two hormones, they're opposite to each other. And also inner core of adrenals, it's called medulla, that release norepinephrine and epinephrine that I mentioned before, that's responsible for sympathetic response of the body. So cortisol is a glucocorticoid hormone synthesized from cholesterol in adrenals. Note here, one of the important reasons to eat right fat or healthy fat that contains good cholesterol. Normally, cortisol expressed in the highest level in the early morning. It's called cortisol morning or awakening response. And its main function is to restore homeostasis following exposure to stress. And homeostasis is a physiological equilibrium in the body. So everything in the body is, if it goes up, it's supposed to go down. So that is, that's what means homeostasis. But homeostasis related to stress, it has its own name, and I'll mention it later. So, and this is how opposite cortisol and DHEA. And it's also like a dance between cortisol and DHEA. If cortisol is going up, that DHEA, which is very important hormone, and I'll show you later how it's linked to other hormonal function, it goes down. So if we always have our stress and cortisol always up, DHEA goes down along with all other hormones. And this is the ratio that we always have to maintain. So here is a presentation how hormones are made in our body along with cortisol, other hormones. So from cholesterol, as I mentioned, in adrenal, first precursor to all hormones is pregnenolone. And from pregnenolone, there is all other hormones like progesterone created through multiple steps. Another arm of the pregnenolone that goes up here, and this is DHEA created, that we need through multiple steps to create testosterone, and from testosterone we create estrogens. So, and another arm of pregnenolone, it goes this way to create cortisol. So can you imagine what happens if we have chronic stress and cortisol is always up? So this cholesterol used to create stress response hormone because it's urgent, it's needed. And these are gonna go diminish. So it's mean DHEA gonna decrease, and testosterone gonna decrease, and estradiol and other estrogen gonna decrease. And how often do you hear that men have low testosterone, or even women, particularly in menopause age, have low testosterone? And what is testosterone responsible for? At least a sex drive, that's most important. So if these go down, all these go down. Same with progesterone. And we know where low progesterone lead to. It's premenstrual problem, PCOS, and premenopausal or menopausal symptoms. So that's why it's very important to have your cortisol under control. So it won't use all cholesterol that needed for production of all other hormones. Another note here, if people on cholesterol lowering medication, what happens? There is not enough cholesterol to create all these hormones. And as we know, cholesterol lowering medication is number one prescribed drug to deal with heart problems. So, and this called pregnenolone still. So what's a function of cortisol? Cortisol, very important for our life, and it's involved in many function in the body. It stimulates gluconeogenesis. It's mean when we need sugar for the muscle to run, we need get sugar from protein and from fat. So also decrease insulin because insulin put sugar back to the tissue, and we need sugar in the blood for cellular energy and energy to fight or flight. Cortisol also involved in iron regulation to prevent cells from losing sodium and accelerate potassium, because potassium also involved in a sugar regulation, and it also for pH balance during the crisis. Cortisol decreases the body's immune response by blocking T cells and inhibiting histamine secretion. And if we have high cortisol for a long time, what's happened? We have a decreased immune system. And as you might know, cortisol is used as an anti-inflammatory drug for this function. Also, cortisol inhibits thyroid hormone activation because we need cortisol to convert inactive T4 to active T3. And if cortisol goes up, this function is disrupted, and with long cortisol, it's gonna get blocked. So sometimes we have increased T4, but not enough active T3, and we have thyroid dysfunction symptoms, but T4 is still high, and doctor cannot diagnose us with hyperthyroidism, even though we show up with symptoms. Also, cortisol increased leptin, and it's very important hormone involved in the regulation of food intake and body fat. And if cortisol is high all the time, what's happened is leptin, it's too much leptin in the body, and body try to convert it back, low down. So with time, it's desensitization happen, and that's why food intake regulation, it stop working, and body fat start creating. And also eating disorder can happen. And as a function of cortisol, it's play a big role in memory. And we know what's happening with our memory. In a short, as acute stress, our memory is very good and high, but with chronic cortisol up, memory goes down. And that's what we usually have at the elder age. So how acute stress become chronic? And this is interesting picture. Perception of stress is influenced by ours or people's experiences, genetics, and behavior or coping mechanism. When the brain perceives any stress, doesn't matter if positive or real or imaginary stress, physiologic and behavioral responses are inhibited to bring body back to homeostasis. Actually initiated to bring body back to homeostasis. And homeostasis in a stress situation is called allostasis. So we respond to stress based on our genes. Actually, I learned that I have one of the genes that make me actually deal better with stress, like oxytocin gene. And some people have problem with or gene variation that cannot cope with stress very well. So knowing your genetics, you know how to help your body to deal with that. Also, what environment we grown up, what childhood experiences, positive or negative, we had, and that affect how we perceive stress and how we react to stress in our developmental circumstances. So we all perceive stress differently. Also physiological response that I just mentioned through the neurological system and the neurological system, and also what behavioral responses we learn to, or how we learn to cope with stress. It's all come together and create that homeostasis. So if those stressors affect us every day, and the stressors come from all different sources, and sometimes you allow the acute stress to become chronic by dwelling on the issue that you have, or ruminating and creating fear or worry about future. You add multiple stressors to your stress bucket that might be already overflowing. So your stress system can quickly become overwhelmed and break down. So chronic level of high stress might disrupt and decline feedback balance, resulting in the failure to stop cortisol production and subsequent hypercortisolemia, or high cortisol level in the blood. So there is, when we chronically stress, our body goes through the different stages of coping. So it's on a physiological level. And I would call it adrenal insufficiency on the different stages. First, our body respond by increasing cortisol, and it's called distinguishing feature, high stress reactions, sleep disturbances, elevated cortisol, and immune suppression. And this is what you will see on the test. I think it's morning or whole day saliva testing of cortisol. So in the morning you see that cortisol supposed to be the highest, and this is the gray area. It's a normal cortisol level. So on the first stage, cortisol is very high in the morning, and it goes down and down by afternoon. And that time we are reaching for a cup of coffee to sustain us a little longer. And it goes up by nighttime, and we become Superman complex, and we can do a lot of different things. Okay. Stage 2, it's cortisol dominant. And distinguishing feature, it's a regular cortisol rhythm. So it's still high in the morning, goes down, goes up when we can do everything like super time, and goes down. And in a stage 3 of adrenal insufficiency, in the morning cortisol is low and low and low and low. So it's down and out stage. And it's at this point, people don't want to do anything. And it's usually depressed situation, and they don't want to get out of the bed, and a lot of inflammation and different multiple health problems at that stage. So our body is very resilient. It goes through so many stages before it shut down. And I would call it adrenal fatigue or adrenal insufficiency. It can go there even more down, and it can shut down. And that is very important when we evaluate people, particularly hormones, and how it's affected our body, and also what stage, because each stage requires a different interventions. So wear and tear on the body from chronic stress, at this point, you start, of course, experience some physical or even mental problem. So wear and tear on the body causes a chronic stress can be shows us those symptoms, as you can see here. So it's a decreased immune function, metabolic syndrome, and diabetes, hormonal imbalances, different hormones, hypertension, atherosclerosis, increased platelets, reactivity or thrombosis, prone to thrombosis, abdominal obesity, bone demineralization, atrophy of neurons of hippocampus and prefrontal cortex, and increased activity of amygdala, emotional center. So we become very emotional, maybe anxious, and also we cannot, our executive function goes down. So what is your coping mechanism to stress? If anybody would like to put in the chat, how do you cope with stress? What is your go-to mechanism for coping with stress? And I used to drink a lot of coffee because I couldn't sleep. So that was my coping mechanism. Or when at the middle of the day, at 4 o'clock, I was going for coffee, and what's happened after that? I was crashing again. So what is your coping mechanism? Anybody would like to share and put in the chat?
Jen said getting into yoga, very soothing, but sometimes it's sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Sugar.
Sugar. Sometimes alcohol, right? When you come after stressful job at the end of the day, and you opening that bottle, and that's the only thing that you're thinking about. Anybody else want to share?
Ani says sometimes sugar also, though she tries not to. Call a friend, dance, tapping.
Mm-hmm. Great. So
exercise, meditation.
very good. So we see that coping mechanisms can be healthy or unhealthy. And what American Psychological Association reports 2014 say that overall Americans appear to be caught in a vicious cycle where they manage stress in unhealthy ways, and seemingly overwhelming barriers prevent them from making the lifestyle or behavioral changes necessary for good health. Compared to Americans elsewhere, Easterns are more likely to say they are too busy or too stressed to make positive changes in their lives. 1 in 5 Americans say they never engage in activity to help relieve or manage their stress. And that research I found when I was writing the book, and one of the chapters I have stress or not to stress. So that I took it from my book. So what can we do? There is a lot of coping mechanisms, and you probably heard about meditation and yoga and all relax. And of course, do anything that you already know to deal with stress. I will mention a few of those that you might not aware. And stress is not what happened to you, but how you react to what happened. And of course, our perception of stress need to be changed if we cannot deal with one situation or another. And sometimes if we cannot control some situations, why worry about it? Like COVID, we didn't predict that, we didn't want that, but how we can avoid it? You can't. So take the best what you can from the situation. And if we cannot change it, it's not going to help us to worry about it. Of course, we fear about unknowing, but any challenges, if we deal with challenge, it's going to make us stronger. That's what I believe. So some other interesting thing that we can do that doesn't cost much, we don't need to go anywhere, and we can do every day to stimulate vagus nerve, particularly parasympathetic nervous system that can calm and relax us. So gargling is one of the way to stimulate vagus nerve, because the vagus nerve goes in the back of our throat. Same for chanting, humming, singing, all goes in the same, it creates vibration, so we can stimulate a vagus nerve. Actually, interesting story about gargling. When I was in medical school and 25 years ago, I remember that one of the professors of, I think, internal medicine or even GI, I don't remember context what he was talking about, but he said that gargling is very healthy and very good for you. And he said it's easy to do when you brush your teeth, always have water and gargling after you brush your teeth. And I'm doing it for 25 years without even knowing that it's related to parasympathetic nervous system. So I guess that helped me to create my coping mechanism without knowing it. And humming, it's very easy to do. Chanting and singing, it's pleasure. So, and another thing that I would like to mention, it's tapping. Tapping is also stimulating due to vibration our sympathetic nervous system, and there's a lot of information now on tapping. And we had one of our functional forum meetup member had a presentation in the past, so you can watch that, or you can find a practitioner around here who can help you with tapping. Tapping you can do yourself. I introduced tapping to my little daughter, and she doesn't do herself, but she asked me to do tapping on her, even sometimes if it's pain related to stress related or anything else. That, mom, can you tap for me? Sometimes even without words, she likes to do it. So it's a nice to implement some healthy coping mechanism to our family members, particularly the little ones. Interesting fact also, that the function of oxytocin in stress and role of oxytocin, how we can increase oxytocin, and oxytocin is anti-stress hormone. And this is one interesting fact. One research was comparing genders, how we cope and how we relate to stress, and particularly, and they say that because women have more oxytocin in their body due to bonding with kids and having a babies, and having more intimate relationship with other people, we have more oxytocin, and that's why we have better coping mechanism with stress. So how to increase oxytocin? Of course, it's love, touch, especially massage, intimacy, consensual sexual activity, warm temperature, like taking a warm bath, vibrational activities through the tapping, as I just mentioned, or other form of vibration can be electric vibration, acupuncture, just regular acupuncture, olfactory clues, or maybe aromatherapy in this section too, social interactions. And as we know, women are more socially interactive and connect to other than men. So mental images of positive experiences also increase our oxytocin. And that's why visualization practices, guided imagery, and reconditioning are one of the coping mechanisms to deal with stress. So in conclusion, almost done. First, as you can see, stress response is a very complicated process that involves many systems in the body. We need to support those systems in order to bounce back quickly, to restore allostasis or equilibrium in the body with optimal nutrition and lifestyle. Second, we need to be equipped with healthy coping skills that can be used in acute stressful situation or shift our stress perception. And last, there are different type of stressors that we get bombarded with every day. And if your stress bucket is overflowed and you experience signs and symptoms of adrenal exhaustion or other hormonal imbalances, the next best thing would be to stop putting log on the fire. What I mean is to stop adding more stressors to your already full stress bucket. Some of the internal and external stressors are very obvious, and some of them you mentioned here, and familiar. Others are hidden and unknown. And if you would like to learn more about environmental, physical, and emotional stressors that you might be contributing to your stress bucket day after day, and how to eliminate them, I would like to invite you to my 5-day challenge that starts on August 3rd. So 5 reasons to join the challenge is it is only 5 days. And as I say, challenges is very motivational and it's free. It takes only 15 to 30 minutes a day to complete. It keeps you motivated to make changes in your life. It has a support you need from me and the group. And the bonus, you have a chance to win a daily prize or a grand prize at the end of the challenge. So this is my invitation to learn more about stressors, and some of them you never imagine you have exposed to them. So this is my invitation to you. But before I finish, I would like to offer you a relaxation method for emergency. And if you want to lower your stress level in a matter of minutes, this technique are all relatively fast acting. So use them as needed to feel better quickly, practice them regularly over time, and gain even greater benefits. But before we start exercise, I would like you to do a test. So put one palm of your hand on your chest and another on your belly. And just breathe normally, how you breathe. What did you notice? What hand does rise when you inhale? One is on the chest or one is on your belly? And if it's one is on your chest, it means that you have very shallow breathing and it's not very healthy breathing. And if palm of your hands on a belly rise, it means that you have belly breathing, which is very soothing and help to release stress. And it's because it affects parasympathetic nervous system when we breathe from diaphragm, when we breathe from belly. So to learn how to breathe from belly, you just need to start practicing. And the exercises that we're gonna do is gonna involve that breathing. But as for me, at first I had a chest breathing and I start changing slowly. And every time I'm aware that I'm breathing from chest, I switch it to belly. So first you need to aware what is your breathing. And secondly, switch when you become aware. And now when I did that test on myself, I realized that now I breathe from my belly. So I don't know when switch took change, but it happened as long as you practice and you aware of the way you breathe. So this deep breathing exercise, you can use anytime when you're in a stressful situation. If it's acute stress or prolonged stress, you can use it in emergency. And you can do it just for a few breaths that we're gonna do right now, or you can do it for 5-10 minutes and it's become as a meditation. So sit or stand in a relaxed position. And first I'm gonna explain what you're gonna do. So when you slow inhale through your nose, count to 4 in your head. And as you inhale, let your abdomen expand outward rather than raising your shoulder or breathing from chest. So when you inhale, count to 4 and expand your belly. And let the air out of your mouth on exhalation, counting to 8 in your head as it leaves your lung. So contract your abdomen while you exhale. Let's try it. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, count to 4. Exhale, count to 8. It one more time. Inhale and exhale. So it's very important when your exhalation is longer than inhalation. This way we bring parasympathetic nervous system when we inhale, because when we inhale, it's sympathetic. When we exhale, it's parasympathetic. So when we try to rebalance our nervous system, and that's why it's important that exhalation is much longer. Another way you can add 2 more steps to this: when you inhale on the count to 4, and you can hold your breath on a count to 5 or 6, and exhale on a count to 8. Hold again and do it again. So it's like a box breathing. And it's maybe next level after you learn this simple breathing exercise. So you can repeat for a few times to release tension when you need it, or you can extend for several minutes as a meditation. And that's it. It's very easy, and you can always carry in your purse and just open and start breathing. That's how simple, and doesn't require any money or anything else. You can add visualization practice to that simple breathing. And you can start it with simple breaths as we just did. And as you breathe in, imagine that relaxation is coming into your body and flowing through your lymph, reaching every part of your body. And as you exhale, imagine that all the stressors from your body is being exhaled. And after 3 minutes, you should be feeling full of peace and stress in your body. So if you keep breathing for 5 minutes or 20, this exercise can relieve stress and help you return to your activities after a stressful situation. So you can practice at home with visualization. You can add some positive images when you breathe in, and you can even use your words. What do you want to exhale, getting out of your body, if it's something related to particular stress, a particular person, or to a particular event. Also, this kind of practices is very helpful as a sleeping aid for people who have trouble falling asleep. So interesting. And a lot of things that I told you today during my presentation, it's just to be aware of how we can cope with our stress. And the knowledge is the key to success in your journey to better health and happiness, but taking action is a door that you need to open with that key. And as a Mark Twain said, the secret of getting ahead is getting started. So you need to start to implement something today to get better. And last question, why you want to distress your body and mind? And this is my answer. I'm here and healthy and happy for my family, for my kids. And that's why I learned how to distress my body and mind. It didn't happen quickly, but I reached that goal, and I'm happy and happy to teach you. So thank you so much. And now it's a time for questions. Any questions? And the link to sign up for my free 5-day challenge, I will send along with the recording, or I can bring back the slide with my challenge. So you can copy that one, or if somebody can post it in the chat. Anyone have questions, concern, or want to share something, experience during the presentation, or experience from your life with stressful situations, or how you coped with stress?
Am I muted?
No, but
It's Betsy.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't understand how to do the chat. I've sent two things in, but nothing happens with them. So I must be doing it wrong.
I'm not seeing it, Betsy. I'm sorry.
No, that's why I don't think I send it right.
Right in the bottom, it says there's participants, chat, share screen, record reactions in the chat. Sometimes it's up in the top too. It could be up in the top.
All right. Okay, I'll have to look for it.
It does say chat. All you have to do is click on it, and then it'll come up to everyone, and then you just type and then hit return.
That's what I did, but what do you hit after you write it? Return?
Yeah,
Maybe I have to move the screen up a little bit to get that last part.
Okay.
So,
you can speak as you're on the camera anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. My mother had Alzheimer's disease, and she had a lot of brothers and sisters that definitely had indications of that. I've had some genomic testing, cellular testing done, and I have the one mutation, so I'm assuming, which I knew I wasn't going to be upset. Can you talk a little bit about this cortisol and DHEA and the brain and the hypothalamus? A little more than you had done there.
Well, it's related. So when we receive stress, the signals or any stressor in the body, any reaction in the body, when it goes up to the brain, to hypothalamus and pituitary, becomes stimulated with hormones that send messages to adrenals. And if it's a stressful event, cortisol gets produced in adrenals from cholesterol. So to keep our body in homeostasis or allostasis, the DHEA is supposed to go up if as an opposite to cortisol. So after acute stress, when it's short stress, cortisol goes up, DHEA goes down. So if DHEA goes down, it means other hormones do not work. Normally, when stress is dissipated, DHEA supposed to go up and cortisol go down. So this is a balance and homeostasis in the body. And it's DHEA produced in the adrenals to bring cortisol down. With time, if it's chronic stress, cortisol is always up and up and up. DHEA is down, 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 but and that's all goes down to the all other estrogenic tissue or other hormones. So sometimes if it's something happening for a long time, our body stop producing. For example, same with cortisol. In the first, cortisol is high, but our body sees that it's always high, it doesn't want to go down. So the back loop that's supposed to bring cortisol down stop working. It's like become desensitized. And that's why everything is become abnormal. So cortisol is supposed to go down, but it doesn't go down. It's always up. And DHA is supposed to go up, but it doesn't go up. So the longer we have stress, the longer, at some point, our body stop working as it's supposed to do. So everything breaks down. Did I explain okay for you? Did you understand how it works?
Well, yeah, I think I do a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
If I establish a pattern during the day, periodically of, just a regular time, to just stop and do some deep belly breathing and whatever, sometimes I walk, there are other things that I know I can release, release the stress. I think I'm pretty good at it. There's meditation and things, but the breathing is the easiest thing for me to put into my schedule. So one of the things that I did fill in that it didn't come up to is I wanted to say, one of the biggest stresses I have is that I do way, way, way too much in a day. I'm 76 and I'm still, Carolina can tell you, I go, 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 go. I have a quote, if I feel like I'm getting to a point where I have so many things that are just overwhelming me, I have this little card, it's sitting on my computer here, it says, I am having a day of silence. I learned it from a lady up in New England that wrote a book about silence. And it is gold because I take a day off. No phone, no radio, nothing, no music, no conversation. I get so much done and relieve so much stress in that particular day. I just thought I'd share that with you, that sometimes we have too many bells ringing and too many doors to answer, and I think that's just overwhelming in itself. So I've enjoyed your lecture tonight, though. Thank you. Very, very interesting.
Did you, what is your takeaway? Did you learn anything new?
Well, I've been in the middle of learning this, so this kind of reconfirmed a lot of the things, because I've had the testing and I know the I'm going to say it again, DHEA and the cortisol. I'm getting to understand that a little bit better. If I remember, mine was very low, the cortisol. Was it, Carolina?
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't remember what the DHEA was, but it was pretty low. So I don't know if that means I'm good or not.
And also, as we know, it's a good tip to get a break from everything or from everybody and go to the silent retreat. This is probably the best.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a wonderful, wonderful technique. And everybody in my house pretty much respects it. But it goes right on the bathroom mirror so that my husband sees it first, because he always has a lot of things he would like to discuss early in the morning, and I'm just not ready. I'm a morning person, but my mind is going on my own things, and I think that's a challenge. So sometimes I just give myself a break from that kind of early morning mind interruption.
Betty's also an incredible artist. And so she's got self-expression is a huge part of her life. And that is just so inspiring. Larissa, I have a question. Do you recommend specific hormonal tests like the Dutch test?
Yes, I do.
To determine DHEA. Do you recommend that?
Yes, I do, and I test my clients. And it's not only DHEA, but I like to look at the cortisol morning response, and that is, and I show on a graph, so we can look at that, and also how our body metabolizes all different hormones. Yes, it's very
right. Great, thank you.
And another small tip that everybody can do is to put a smile on your face. And that bring everybody, it makes everybody happy. And actually, if you don't feel like smiling but still smiling, your body become relaxed. And as we just trying to figure out technology, I just put smile on my face and like whatever happen. If it doesn't happen today, it will happen next time. So and even though now everybody wear a mask, you don't know if they're smiling or not. Just put smile.
Here's where the art, you have to draw one on.
Smile with your eyes. You have to, that's what I try to do, smile with people with my eyes.
That's true.
Okay.
That was great,
Anything
Larissa.
else?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Larissa, for a wonderful presentation. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight, especially with all the